Good evening, welcome to In the Spotlight. Tonight we'll be questioning 3 of the current full-time student union officers and exploring what they have been doing over the past few months. We'll also be seeing if they are achieving what they set out to achieve during their initial campaigns. But before that, here's Lewis with a roundup of today's news.
Thank you very much, Reese. The main news at 6 o'clock. Junior doctors in England and Wales are 10 hours into a planned 24-hour strike over pay. The government's proposed new contract could give junior doctors an 11% rise, but reclassify Saturday working hours. The British Medical Association argued that this would actually result in a 33% decrease in overall pay. Donald Trump has had his first victory in the race for the White House, taking 35% of the vote in New Hampshire primary. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie has suspended his campaign after finishing 6th place, only receiving 7.4%. Mr. Christie said that he would be returning home to take a deep breath before making a decision about his political future. On the Democratic side, but Senator Bernie Sanders beat his rival Hillary Clinton by over 20%. In a speech, Mr. Sanders declared his win a political revolution. Sunderland footballer Adam Johnson has pleaded guilty to 1 count of sexual activity and 1 count of grooming of a 15-year-old girl. The 28-year-old from County Durham continues to deny other charges relating to the same young person. A trial is due to be formally opened on Friday. In Staffordshire, a 20-year-old man who died following a crash on the M6 on Saturday has been named as Kieran Ivon Daitish. In a statement, his family said they are devastated by their tragic loss. The Metropolitan Police's handling of claims of historical child abuse by public figures is to be reviewed by a High Court judge. Sir Richard Henriquez is to make recommendations about whether there are ways to improve procedures. The Department of Transport has dismissed claims that there are plans to change the drink driving limit in England and Wales. There have been speculation that a potential law change after the Transport Minister Andrew Jones hinted that there may be an altercation. And finally, nominations of the leadership race close on Friday. It is your last chance to nominate yourself or a person you think can make a difference. Voting opens on the 1st of March and you can watch the results live here on Staff's TV on Friday the 4th of March. We are certainly looking forward to that. That is all your news for now. The time is 4 minutes past 6. Back to you, Reese.
Thank you, Lewis. Now it's time for our first interview with Jamie Lee. I'm now joined on In the Spotlight by Jamie Lee Cunningham. Jamie Lee, welcome to the show.
Hi.
So just tell us a bit about what you've been up to this week. What have you been doing recently?
So this week I've been working on a mental health booklet. It's almost like a follow-up from a campaign I've done just before Christmas. So it's basically going to put together all the support students can get from the university and from external services as well. And there'll be a bit about the research that the union have done around the mental health stigma. There's also a bit of information on the types of mental health disorders that are out there, because we realise there's a bit of a gap sort of in our information services on telling students the sort of things that they might be suffering from. So just if they want that bit of information of what might be happening to them, they've just got something to make reference to.
Why did you, at the start of, at this point last year, want to become an officer? What was it that attracted you to the role?
It was actually one of my tutors that told me about it. And she said there was a big gap in that a health science student hadn't come forward and done it. I think my course kind of, I don't know if this is just it is just my opinion, but my course weren't that engaged with the union. We didn't really know much about it. So I kind of wanted to get that, I don't know, almost like I've got that inside knowledge of health science so I could help the health science students. But I'd also been an academic rep, and I wanted to make sure that that was like a big priority for the union, and I knew there was a lot more that could be done, so it was something I kind of wanted to work on. So I had that kind of background, but also coming from dance as well, I had that sort of sports, club, society background as well. And again, I'd seen the issues that were around that and the odd thing I'd like to work on.
So what type of issues were brought up around the dance and the sports stuff that you saw?
We had issues the same as a lot of other clubs and societies have around facilities and timetabling. But it's just things that can't be avoided, but it's just having someone that can say, look, this is the issue, but it's nothing personal, we're trying to work on it. So just to sort of communicate with the clubs and societies and say, we are aware it's an issue, but you're not the only one. Because dance kind of felt a bit isolated, like it's only us, but it's not a personal thing, because I think they felt a bit victimised. So it's nice to get the message out to other clubs and societies, like it's not just you.
So what do you think, out of your time as being an officer, has been your biggest achievement? What would you say is your crowning moment, the moment that you're most proud of?
Probably the mental health campaign, because it was such a big priority for me. I guess partly because of being a psychology student, that's kind of my area, but also it was something I wanted to find out for myself, but also prove to other students around the stigma that it's really not that big of an issue. Because I'd heard other students talk about mental health, and the way they spoke about it was kind of how my attitude is, that it shouldn't be something you're ashamed of. So I thought, well, if everybody I've spoken to has that attitude, then surely there's more people at staffs that have this positive attitude. So when we did the research, I think we had over 500 students take part, and we found out like there's really not a stigma. Students are actually really supportive of their friends. They'd want to get help, whereas I think we think everybody else thinks it's a really bad thing, you should be ashamed. But it was just such a nice result to get, and then talking to all the students and seeing how surprised they were as well by the result, and how they were a bit like, oh, okay, that's actually quite nice to hear. It was just quite rewarding that we could sort of change their opinion. So I definitely think it was that, because it is something I really wanted to do, so when I'd finally got to do it, I was really chuffed.
So what would your advice be to any potential candidates or anyone who's thinking about running the leadership race? What would your advice be to those people?
Just go for it. I think people look at other candidates and think, oh no, they've got this background and that background, they're going to know more. If you put the hard work in and there is something you're passionate about, go for it, because it is such a massive experience for anybody, and you learn so much. And I think people might doubt themselves and think, I wouldn't be able to do that, but if you go to the sessions beforehand and talk to your friends, see if they'll support you, there's nothing stopping anybody.
So at the start of your campaign, and when you decided to run, did you have the support of all your friends? Were you quite a popular person? Do you think that your involvement with clubs and societies and your previous engagement with any students or the student union, do you think that helped at all?
I don't know. Looking back on last year, I didn't really know that many people, because I commuted. I kind of went to my course, went to dance, went home. So I don't know. I don't think I knew that many people. I think it's about who you speak to, like during like your campaign and explaining what you're doing, not so much relying on who you already know. Because I did get support from people on my course and from dance, but looking back, I didn't know that many people. So again, if someone's worried, oh, I don't know that many people, still go for it.
So at the start of your journey, were you dead set on becoming an officer? You had that, and you thought, I'm definitely going to be an officer.
I really wanted to be, but I'm one of those people that's like, oh no, I don't think I'll get it. But I gave it everything. So.
Cool. So we have been having a look at your manifesto from the start of when you first were campaigning to become an officer. Do you think, before we go into it, do you think that you have fully achieved or are working towards completing everything that you've set out to achieve in your manifesto?
Looking back on it, I think so. There's stuff that we're still working on, and then there's things that I've done, and like, so the mental health, I've done the campaign, but we're still going to keep working on that. So my main points, and I know mine was about representation as a whole for the manifesto, and that's still something I'm really working on.
Yeah. So just going through some of the points in your manifesto, we've touched on a few of them already. One of them is improving sports facilities. So obviously we've seen an improvement with the sports hall, Stanley Matthews Sports Hall, and the gym. So what other areas have you been working on, and what else have you been focusing on to get that?
There's a big focus at the moment. The union are working on the sports strategy, so looking at what we do as a union to support the clubs and societies. At the moment, we're looking at how we can best facilitate all these clubs and societies because they're so varied, and just making sure that everyone's sort of getting treated fairly. Because like I said, every sport is so different, we can't treat them all the same. So it's just about making sure the opportunity is there for everybody, even though the opportunity isn't going to be the same. So,
do you know how many sports clubs or those type of clubs there are?
Clubs and societies, we've got over 100.
Yeah.
But down to the actual numbers, I'm not sure.
Obviously, because the sports clubs and societies.
Yeah, we've got like
interest
academic societies and then sports clubs and
kind of treat a little bit differently. So your focus was the sports
clubs. Yeah.
So have you been doing anything with societies, or is that something that you've stepped back and you wanted to just focus on sports clubs?
No, as a whole, the union and all of the officers have been working on societies because we want to get more engagement, because we have got so many clubs. We don't have as many societies, especially academic. So we've been pushing people to sort of engage with their course mates and bring societies together, and postgrad as well. We don't have as much engagement with postgraduate students, so we're kind of pushing for a society from them as well, just so we can kind of get that buzz around societies as we have got for clubs.
Yeah. Another point in your manifesto was ensuring a safer campus. That was the second point in your, three points would you most like to focus on, was ensuring a safer campus. So what steps and initiatives have you taken to ensure that you are providing a safer campus?
For a couple of years now, there's been a campaign the union have been doing called Be Safe, and a big thing about that is the information that students are aware of, so the services out there, what they can do in different situations or scenarios should something go wrong. So it's the main focus of the union is getting that information out, because I think sometimes we think students know more than they do, so it's about making sure they know who they should contact in different situations. And little things like which way they should walk into Hanley and not walk. So Bal helped put the footprints down as a safe track. It's just the little things like that that are just making sure students aren't putting themselves in danger.
So the majority of those cases that would come through the Be Safe campaign, are they handled by the Students' Union, or are they shared with a wider university, like the support services in there?
We have worked with the university and the local community, but it's a focus of the union.
There was also, one of the points in there was implementation of a student mentoring scheme. So have you implemented that, and what's all that about?
So peer mentoring it's quite a small thing that's already going on in the university now, and the university and the union are teaming up at the moment to make it more sort of widespread and make sure we're getting the engagement from students. So getting university staff to support the mentors and the mentees and just make sure that it's going how it should be, because I think not many people knew about it, so it's about making sure that everybody knows about it and that we're teaming up with the university, because I think if we didn't work with the university then we'd struggle, because obviously the university see the students every day with the tutors, so we're just trying to get a back-in for it, but it is starting and we are.
So what steps are you taking to start that? What's kind of the initial getting the ball rolling?
A lot at the moment, a lot of it's the more boring side of the meetings, with the university staff, seeing who we can get on board, who will be leading on it. So at the moment we're more in the planning stages.
So what's your big outcome? What is the main achievement that you want from this?
When I wrote that, the thing I would have liked to have seen, so what we're working towards, is that it's a more, use it as like a work experience thing, so your level 5 and 6 students can use it as volunteering or work experience with working with another student. So when your level 4 students come up and it's quite nerve-wracking, just having that person to go to, and do it by course as well. So it would be no good me having a mentor who had never done psychology and I needed to ask them, how do I do this referencing style? So it was making sure we link them by course. Just little things that make that relationship between the mentor and mentee a bit better.
Yeah. During your manifesto and quite a few of the other manifestos that I've read so far, and the manifestos of the officers that are full-time at the moment, there's a lot of talk of the university or the student experience. What is that to you? Explain what the student experience is to you, because I imagine your student experience as a dancer and as a psychology student would be a lot different to those of an art student. So what is your student experience? What would you class that as?
I guess it's everything. So just, almost seeing your university life as like I don't know how to explain it. So it's like your community, like the university is your sort of your new home. So you've got like your dance side, your psychology side, just that everything sort of fits together, and just that you enjoy everything. I don't know how to explain it, student experience. I don't know, just for me, I think it's just being happy at university, that you're enjoying everything. You feel like you're getting everything from it, and that after university you feel like you're ready to go on and do whatever you want to do next.
And do you feel like most students are getting the full student experience? Do you think that they're fulfilling what they can potentially get out of the university and out of the Students' Union?
I don't think they are. From working in the union the past couple of months, I've seen how little people do know what the union can do for them. So the union recently did a Your Union campaign, so that was sort of like spreading the word of what the union does, what we can do for students. And students sometimes think the union's just a bar or just a club or society, whereas we've got volunteering, job opportunities, the student advice centre, academic representation. There's so much that people can get involved in that they might not know about. But then you've also got your non-typical student who might be a commuter or a mature student who might think they can't get involved in these sorts of things because they commute. So again, that's another group of students that might not get involved who could. So they're not necessarily getting that student experience because they think they can't.
So what would you do to make sure that people are getting that student experience? How would you get that out there of all the things that the Student Union can do?
The biggest thing we're trying to do is get out and talk to those students, which is what the aim of the Your Union campaign was, getting out to those students, talking to them, telling them to get involved, but telling them our stories as well. Like me and Ash are both commuting students, and we got involved, and I think some people just think they can't, so it's sort of giving them the stories of, well, we did it, so can you. Don't let anything stop you.
Brilliant, brilliant. Is there anything you'd like to add? Is there anything you'd like to tell the people watching at the moment about what you're doing?
I guess the one message I'd give is this is like the best thing I've ever done, this role. So if anyone is like, oh, I don't know whether to run, I don't know if I could be an officer, just go for it. It's honestly the best thing I've done. The things you get to do, the things you learn, like it's such a hard job to explain, because there's just so much to it, so many meetings, which sounds boring, but it's fantastic. So anybody, just go for it. It's really good.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Jamie Lee. Still to come on the programme, we're joined by Tom Hope, but before that, Ash Holland. I am now joined by Ash Holland. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Reece.
Let's start with the first question. What have you been up to this week?
Well, it's still in the beginning of the week, but there's been quite a lot going on. I've been working on stuff over the last couple of weeks. So the thing I've been mostly focusing on this week is the United Campus Games, which is coming up, which is on the 2nd of March. So United Campus Games did it the first semester, and now just going to do it again this semester. Going to be a bit bigger, a bit better this time. Also going to be finishing off with a darts finale in LRV. So there's going to be a couple of teams going head to head on that. So I'm just currently working on the schedule for that. Also working with some of the students with what we're going to be doing at varsity. Maybe we're doing, we did the rainbow laces last year. Maybe bringing a campaign around it. Now we're going to put stuff, have something to people know about the awareness, not just the t-shirts and not just being out there and getting people wearing the laces, but a bit something else behind it. So there's a little bit in the background that me and the students have been working on. Also this week we've been working on the stuff I'm doing for OMG next week on the officer show there, where we talk about what the officer's been up to, leadership race. I've been out and about today doing leadership races in Edinburgh Square. I was out doing leadership races in Stafford with Tom this week, which is all good. So if you want to come down and just even ask me a question, it's a bit more relaxing area, just promote to be a leader and how you can get involved and how you can nominate yourself, but also nominate other people and what it is the whole role's about.
Yep, so you've got a pretty packed schedule then.
Well, that's all the fun stuff. There's a lot of stuff in behind, a lot of the meetings and stuff like that we have to go to, and then we got a lot of outcomes in that way, but for the students want to know and see me about the things I've been up to.
Brilliant. So why did you want to become an officer when you were first campaigning? What was it that was your main goal?
First of all, becoming an officer, I didn't really understand what an officer was. So I went into the union, I'd been nominated for it. I want to find out what this role is. I don't understand. All I knew was the people for this week, every year, the people who pester me, and I don't understand what it is. So I went in and spoke to the union, figured out what the officer was, and it was an opportunity to give back to the university, but also change things better for students that were coming up. So I didn't want anyone to have any of the bad experience which I'd had and not to be noticed. I thought, oh, this is an opportunity where I can get in a position, I can get some of the issues solved that have been on my course or what I've been out on my activities and my groups, and solve these issues for the students which are still going to be a second going into a third year or a first going into a second year, but also for upcoming students, I didn't want them to have the same issues. So really having the opportunity to give back to not one person or to the university, but to affect people's lives for many years to come was just that opportunity on its own made me want to be an officer.
Brilliant. So obviously it sounds like you've done a lot and that you're happy with what you've been doing, but what is your biggest achievement? What would you crown as the best thing that you've done? I
think that's a really hard question right now, because when you're like halfway through the role and every month there's always something great and you keep the motivation, and especially with this team we always motivate and we're going right to the end, so to crown something right now when we're not at the finish line just seems a bit odd, but I can tell you some of the highlights and some of the great things we've done.
So far, the things that you've done, what would you say is your best achievement?
There's nothing we've done on my own. Everything's always been with the team. Being part of someone else has always helped me, or I've helped someone else in the team to do that.
So teamwork is a big thing for you.
Big teamwork, yeah. And so I think some of the greatest things we've done loads of stuff with the international students. So from day one to having like the welcome events with them and then moving into our actual welcome events for the new students coming through. Some of those events and getting out with them students and engaging with them with some great things. But I think some of the campaigns and the awareness which we've raised this year has been really good. So I think what Bal's been leading on the Be Safe stuff, being out and about with that, how we've helped out with the Careers Fest, that's been great as well. Jamie's mental health campaign. Also, like at the beginning, there was a lot of issues within the team with where we'd had different sides of things. So, for example, me and Emma were saying, I was having a problem as a committee member that I couldn't get the international students involved. So, but she was saying, we're not getting the information from the clubs and society. So, trying to bridge that gap, and then also with the participation and stuff like that. When I was speaking to Tom, it's about getting the teams from Stafford and all that involved. So, there's been so much stuff that we've done together. It's hard to say, this was fantastic and this was the greatest thing, because there's so many little things that have all built up, but actually massive impact. So.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to anyone thinking about running a leadership race?
I give advice every Tuesday on OMG if you want to tune in for the officer show at 1 o'clock. But if you've not heard me before and you've not spoken to any officers yet, I think becoming an officer or thinking about being an officer, doesn't matter about your background or where you come from. As you heard Jamie say before, it's about if you're passionate and you feel like you can make a change greater for students and you're fighting for the right thing, people will vote for you. People will vote for the right person, the right genuine person who really knows that, like, if you're knocking on someone's door, you're not going to cower away. You're going to stand up and fight for what the students need. So as long as you've got that fight inside you and that passion that you want to do something great, you can be a great officer.
Brilliant answer. So we've been having a look at your manifesto from the start of your campaigns and stuff like that. Do you think, before we have a look, that you have achieved some of the things or have started to make waves in the stuff that you said that you wanted to do?
Looking at the manifestos, when before you become an officer, there's so much stuff happening in the background that you don't know. A lot of stuff the students don't know. So you write something which you want to change, but when you get in post, stuff can already be worked on. So for example, there's a massive thing on my manifesto. It's like, oh, it's all about parking. I want to get parking better. So I came in, I was like, you know, loads of students from different backgrounds, different faculties, everyone wants parking, even the staff want parking, so it's something I want to fight for. And I come in, and the university's like already working on it and putting things forward to that. So it was just like flagging up different areas, but sometimes it's hard to get your outcome as you wanted it because you realise it's already been worked on. So actually a different angle on it is always been, on some of the stuff on the manifesto, it's been hitting it with a different angle.
Yeah, on the parking issue, obviously there's been less spaces, well, the car park where the beacon is currently being built, which has been taken away, and with the improvements to the accommodation, there is a few, but not all of the car parking spaces have been taken away there. So obviously, one of your main points was to address that issue. So have you been working with the people who are in charge of parking and finding a way to make sure that it isn't an issue to students and to staff?
I think with the parking thing, it's something that we've been working on, but it's one of those areas that has always been put in place. So before I became an officer, the university knew about this. So when I come up and like try and flag it up again, it's like, oh, it's going there. So it's just been live to when spaces are going to be used and looking at the parking permits. So the officers at the beginning had that, the reduced parking permit, but also like it's more of a future thing, so it's not something you can get over and done with straight away. So if you look at like some of the future of where staffs are going to be in some of the buildings there, you can see how they plan for parking there. So it's going to be done, but it's not going to be done in my time, which is a bit of a shame. But
have you had involvement with those?
Oh yeah. The thing is, if you want to be, when you become an officer, and you want to get involved in anything, you've always got a support behind you, so you get pushed in the right direction. You know who to speak to and who to get to, and how to say things sometimes. So sometimes you work with different members of staff, and there's the ways you need to word something to get a better outcome. So once you've learned that and you've got that support behind you, you can get pushed in the right direction to make sure you can have the impact on anything you want to fight for.
Okay. Looking at the top, right at the top of your manifesto, you have a little motto which is "Value your change."
Yeah.
Yeah. What does that mean to you, and what were you trying to get across with that?
The thing is with value your change is like, I wasn't a big name on campus, didn't know loads of people, and I was like, don't vote for your friend because he's your friend. Value the change you want. So it was like, you know what, you're not going to spend your money on something ridiculous. You're going to spend your money on something that you want and something that you need if you be smart. So it's about being smart with your vote and value the change you're going to make. So if you value your change, you'll value voting for me instead of voting for someone else who's just your friend and you don't know what they're going to do. Okay.
So is that, we've noticed obviously with the parking thing, you've got stickers up around saying, what's on those stickers?
Well, I can't remember which one it was. I had so many little different posters on there. But I can't remember. I remember the little guy with a pointing a smiley face, but I can't remember what actually said on it now. It's that long time ago.
Oh, okay. Another point on your manifesto was security, and you wanted to boost security on and around campus.
Yeah.
Have you managed to make any waves with that? Have you implemented anything with that again with the university?
I think with the Be Safe campaign, obviously did the awareness around stuff going around and helping students to be aware of what's actually going on. And sometimes it's not putting stuff in place, but educating people. So sometimes there's bad publicity out there. I know you might have seen on some of the things saying, oh, Stoke-on-Trent being ranked in one of these bad things, but actually it's not the area where the university's in. The area which we're in, we're really safe. And you look at Simon Stone, our local police officer, he's been doing some great things out there. He's always out and about. And the trouble that happens in our area is so minimal. And if it was just the university taking in place, we wouldn't actually be on that list.
So has there been an increase in security, or has anything that you've suggested to the university kind of started to be implemented, or I think have they said that it was already at the standard that they wanted it?
I think speaking to Simon, there's really good security on site anyways. It's just making sure there's lit areas, so something Bal was really passionate about. The thing is, when the leadership race was going on before it actually happened, there's a lot of students that came forward about, oh, it needs to be safer and all these things that are going on. And we were in the similar rooms at the same time when this was going on. So I think like you look at Clarice Bridge, Clarice Cliff Bridge, and now you want to get safety on there. Bal's really pushing for that at the moment. But for the access and stuff like that, for the security is more, I can't say we've got more CCTV put up or anything like that, but just helping put the right bottle stoppers and stuff like that in. So it's not security measures in CCTV, Big Brother sort of thing, but actually, you know, you're feeling safe in a different way.
Yeah.
So I think we've had that outcome.
Are you happy with the amount of security that's at the university?
I think it's getting the right step. I think it's not all the way there, yeah. And I really think Simon, our police officer, and the officer team working ahead, really keep, get it to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
So,
I do know that Simon is very passionate about security at the university, so having him on your side is probably a really good thing. Another point on your manifesto was about improving facilities and making sure that Stafford students and Stoke students during their move weren't neglected at any point. Have you noticed any changes, or have you noticed anywhere where the student unions had to step in and say?
I think from day one, this is something that was really... So before I actually got elected, I was worried about the reception areas and faculties. I was from the Mallow building, the computing engineering side of things in Stoke, and I really was worried about these reception areas and people getting lost and not having that support there. So something me and Tom worked on at the beginning is that we went to the meeting with the right execs and actually got it pushed back to the January. So flagging up them areas and getting the student support, we might have not got a total win in the sense of, you know, we've kept it, we've got it there like the art shop was, but actually we've pushed it back and we've made things run more smoothly. So if it had gone a lot earlier, and maybe happened in the September where they wanted to, the students might not have got the same support and things would have been rushed, so there'd have been a lot of issues coming up. So having that was a good way for that sort of facilities in that way. And then I think something else which Tom will probably go into in depth later on is how we're getting access to more labs and facilities and computers and stuff like that. Something that we're trying to push the university to give more access. So it's not a 24/7 library, because obviously you can't improve that because it's 24/7, but it's about having access to the right images on computers in the different areas of in Stoke. So when the staff students come across, it's not like, oh, we'll all cram in the library. Actually, can we just move into the Mallow building? Or we've got some access more for some of the kilns, in fact, that have been working with students this year. So there's a lot of little small things that you forget about that sort of pop up, but actually the access that we've gained throughout the first sort of 6 months, we've actually got quite a bit for the students in different areas. But I think that's important if you feel like you've not got that access or you've got that issue, is about coming to the officer team and flagging it up. So the access with kilns and stuff like that was actually brought to me by a bunch of master's students, and if it wasn't for them coming to me, I would never have known. So they've managed to get that sort of extra training, extra support, that extra bit of access now, because we've just gone in the right way. So
you think going forward that the university are prepared and have the right facilities for the Stafford students moving down to Stoke? Obviously with the building of the Beacon building, which would be that brand new teaching rooms and stuff.
Yeah, I think if everything goes to plan, and some of the teachers, execs, staff members have really got some great drive, and I think the officers behind it just giving that extra sort of nudge, because sometimes staff members can be sort of like, oh yeah, we need to do this, this and this, but actually sometimes this is not the best for the students. So just doing this little tweak to it will make it so much better and so much nicer for the integration, and making sure that it's not just Stafford students coming across, but also the Stoke students there don't feel like, oh, usually I can get in this lab, but now there's so many more students, I can't get in that lab. It's still having that access available that I had before. So
brilliant. Another point on your manifesto was about the sports centre. Obviously, we know that you're heavily involved with sport. You're on probably every single sports team, and you have that passion for sport. Something that was brought up was dynamic timetabling and making sure that people knew when they could use those facilities. Have you managed to bring that in?
I haven't managed to bring that in, actually. I think the timetabling sort of issues it's getting there, because in the sense what the issues was before was that we had a staff member off at the union and staff at the university, obviously at the sports centre, and there's been lack of communication. But the communication is so much more better. It's still not where it needs to be, and there's still some issues that come up, and still some bookings that sort of go over. The access and the idea I had even at the beginning is much more different than it is actually now. But I think in practice, what's going on, I think it's working in a better way, and he's going to make the right steps in the future. So, yeah.
Being obviously a user of the sports facilities yourself, do you think that there is anything that the student union need to look at, or that you need to raise with certain people?
I think there's always stuff that's raised at the sports centre. There's so many teams to get in there, and everyone's got different ideas and how they want to use stuff and the access of storage and stuff like that. I think there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done still with our storage of our equipment and getting our shelving up. And sometimes it's getting the students on board with stuff. So if they want to keep dumping stuff, it's about respecting other people's stuff at the same time. So there's stuff getting damaged. So I think when we bring the committees in, now they're getting elected this year, we're much better. So I feel like instead of having committee members who sort of, oh, you've got to do it, you'll have committee members who want to do it. And I think they'll respect and do things a lot different. So I feel like next year, the sports and the societies will run loads much better.
Yep. So. Right. Is there anything you would like to add? Is there anything you'd like to tell the viewers about your time as an officer, or any advice? Time as an officer? I think Jamie was really set the point on the head. Was sort of like, we are both commuting students, both really engaged ever since we've been officers, and we didn't come from, you know, I'm the head of the American football team who's got 60 members or anything like that. We only had our little small societies, so probably 15, 20 people in the basketball team, probably the same in the dance team. I was a part-time student, so a lot of my friends were just popping in and out. I did a full-time course as well. But because you're from one area, it doesn't mean someone from a different area won't vote for you. So it's just about, like I said before, it's about being passionate. People, if they value you, they're going to vote for you. So. Brilliant. Yeah. Thank you very much, Ash.
Thanks,
joining us next, Tom Hope. Now, I'd like to welcome Tom Hope to the show. How are you? How's things?
I'm a bit ill, but things are okay at the moment. Always busy.
Yeah. So the same question as I've asked everyone else. The first few questions are the same. What have you been up to this week or recently that you'd like to tell us about?
Oh, it's just been full steam at the moment. So as a team, we've been working very closely with the union and the university on the strategic plans. One for the next 5 years. So the university is planned for the next 5 years, and the unions as well. Which is, as you can imagine, is very, very tiresome.
Which we're going to come to.
Which we're going to come to in a bit anyway. And then also been working on different work streams for those strategic plans as well with the rest of the team. We're working on a lot of Stafford orientation stuff, different events coming up. I could talk about how on Monday there's going to be an event at Stafford. I think it's between 12 and 2. Where you can come to the student space and you can talk about, you can meet with like advisors, the enabling centre. I'll be there as well, just to talk about the Stoke move, just to try and calm any worries that any students have. Also, we'll be releasing an FAQ as well. So if you have any sort of questions that you want to be put on that, people can just email me at thomas.hope@staffs.ac.uk or just drop me a Facebook message or something as well.
Brilliant. So same question again. Why did you want to become an officer at the start? Obviously, you're, I think, the only officer on this officer team that's already been an officer. So you've been one for 2 years now.
Yeah.
So
I think it's quite an interesting one, really. So I come from a background where both my parents are disabled. So they always tried to do as much as they could for me. And then I sort of just wanted to give back, really, and help as many people as possible. So in 2011, I set up the first Stafford campus Facebook group. Invited all the residents into that group. Like the students actually thought I was staff when I was actually starting myself, to be honest. I just tried to help as many people as possible. I never planned to run as an officer, but I was kind of forced into it by all my friends and all the people that helped. Just pushing me to go out there, because I've always suffered from a bit of anxiety and stuff. So it was quite interesting, really, going through this process.
So that helped?
It always massively helped. I mean, I can't describe it, really. I mean, when I was doing my final year project, I was absolutely terrified at my my one-to-one presentation, my Viva at the end. But then, over summer, I was there doing graduation speeches to 3,000 people, and I think that just shows how much it can develop you as a person.
So what made you decide to rerun and become an officer again?
I think it's always, when you start a piece of work, you like to see it fit, a lot of continuity is very important within unions across the country. There are some unions which only allow officers to run for 1 year. And it's just making sure that work then continues that you've started, and also to help support the new officer team coming in with your experience, to help with them with their training and development during the summer period before the students come back.
Brilliant. What is your biggest achievement, I suppose, over the 2 years that you've been here? You can choose from.
Oh God. So, I think the biggest achievement was being part of the team last year when we managed to get the library to become 24/7 again. But I still think that achievements shouldn't be really, given like a weight. You can have such an impact on an individual. I'll always remember the one point this year when I was sitting in the office and the student came in and she was in tears. And what happened is that she lost the bank card and she had to get back home into Tamworth to be able to go and pick up a child. So I gave her a bit of money out of my own pocket to help her get back. And it's just, I'll always remember that life-changing moment where you can actually just make a difference to someone. And I think that's what the biggest achievement is, just making a difference to anyone around you.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to anyone thinking about running in the leadership race? What normally happens is a lot of people get really terrified of the idea because they don't like being videoed, they don't like being put in the spotlight. I mean, personally, I never like being in the spotlight. I still hate my picture when I walk into buildings and I see my face there, especially when you compare it to someone like Ash or something, you know what I mean? It's like pretty different. But it's just putting yourself out there, because at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter how much you know about the union or how much you don't know about the union. There's a great staff team, behind the union, and they're always there to help train and develop you as a person. And it helps push you out there, and you can make a difference. Don't just think that you can't because you feel like shit, really. I think a lot of students probably don't even realise that this is a full-time job, and you're actually doing a lot of other things that maybe aren't public-facing or that the students do see. There's a lot that goes on behind. So what would you say that the stuff that you're doing is having an impact on people whether they don't see it?
Do you mean individually or as a team? Because
as a team, I suppose.
I believe that it's always a tricky one. I mean, when I was a student, I didn't really know what an officer team did. That's the reason why I didn't really know what the union was until my final year properly, until I joined the society. It's always a tricky one. Like your friends that your close, your little circles know what you're doing, but sometimes it's difficult to get that message outwards to the other students. But you do see there's lots of changes that we do within the university at different boards and committees that we don't really talk about, because it would mean that the university was going to do something bad. So to then like publicise that they were going to do something bad and then we fixed it, doesn't help the relationship that we have with the university, which is very, very strong compared to other unions across the country. So yeah.
Brilliant. So we're going to take a look at some of the points that you've put in your manifesto, but before we have a look, would you say that you've been sticking to your manifesto and that the points that you've raised on there have been at the forefront of everything that you've been doing as an officer this year?
I think so. I mean, manifestos are quite tricky ones. I mean, sometimes when you're an officer and you write your manifesto for the first time, you don't know what's going on in the background, so you don't know whether the university is already tackling this issues or the union, for instance. But a manifesto shouldn't be something very individualised. It's a team thing. So one of the first things we do when we all get in and we all meet in June is we all go through each other's manifestos, and then we all come together and then we all tackle them together as well. And you will find a lot of things are quite similar. So whether it be in safety on campus, for instance, or facilities, then it's something that we can tackle as a team, because that's what being in this role is about. It's about being in a team.
Brilliant. So obviously the main point, you being from Stafford campus, is the move from Stafford and Stoke with the closure of Beaconside. Obviously, as a team, you're working quite hard to make sure that transition is quite seamless. But what have you been doing? What things are being implemented? What can we see that's going to happen?
I think one of the biggest things that you can see outwards looking is about the lettings provision that we're doing now, working very closely with the university on that as well, ensuring that all students have the right adequate accommodation when they move over, because that was one of the biggest fears. There's also quite a shift in difference between Stoke and Stafford, in that Stafford students seem to look for accommodation around January, February time, whereas Stoke students look a lot more early. So it's just making sure that the Stafford students are aware of that, to make sure that they get the right accommodation. I think one of the things that we also made all the students aware of was that the university halls aren't going to be taking any returning students as well. So it is about making sure that we help all those students that will be coming into the second and third years to find the accommodation from Stafford. We've done a lot of work around placement students as well, so our listings actually went a week early to students that are on placement, just to make sure that they don't miss out, because it's very difficult to be able to keep on track of your emails when you're off in another country, for example. So just making sure that everyone's okay.
Yeah. So what type of events and advice stuff that you're doing to speak to the students and to alleviate any of the worries that they have if they think maybe they won't get accommodation, or that they won't know that Stoke as a place? What are you doing as an individual and as a student union team? I think
it's a lot of misconception around Stoke. I mean, when I was a Stafford student, I had a lot of the same. You hear a lot of rumours, that are about Stoke. But after working there for the last year and a half, I could say that a lot of those rumours are not true. One of the biggest fears is about the crime statistics. But that area of that's taken into account also includes the football ground, the train station, also at the back of the town as well. And it's normally around burglaries, but I can assure you that there's hardly any crime around Shelton or the Stoke campus, for that matter. So that students should not be worried about that. I've been talking to a lot of students about their worries as well. I always operate on a sort of an open door policy, especially with my Facebook chat. So if any students ever have any issues, they can always either message me on there, or they can email me at thomas.hope@staffs.ac.uk as well. But I'm sure it's not just me though as well. You can also go and ask the other officers about their experiences in Stoke. You can even go and ask any of the other students. There's also the opportunity for students to go along to the open days at Stoke going forward as well. The Insight bus will be operating on those days, just to make sure that you get that experience, because it does feel like you're starting again for quite a lot of the students. So it's just making sure that they're okay.
So do you think that the move from Stafford to Stoke, it will be quite seamless? You won't have that many problems because of the advice that you're giving and the pre stuff that you're doing?
I think all we can do is just try and mitigate a lot of the issues. I think there always will be a few issues, as we've seen recently with the centralisation of services. Ash worked very closely on Mellow with some noise disruption, which got solved straight away now that they did all the works at different times to make sure that those students weren't being disrupted. I think we can just try our best, but what we need most of all is that for students, when they come back in September, to make the union aware of those issues, so then they can get solved as quickly as possible.
Yeah. With the closure of Beaconside, obviously this year with the leadership race, there is one less officer position, but those students are still going to be at the university. So do you think that the Students' Union will be pushed to deal with, because they're all going to be in one place now? They're all going to be at that above Ember Lounge.
I think it's always going to be a bit of a tricky one, but what we must not forget is about all our students, our partners, all the students at Shrewsbury, Blackheath Lane as well. They're always a priority for us as a union, is to try and represent as many students as possible. I think one less officer could potentially, it will be a new way of doing things. I think it will make a lot less, stress on the officer team, because a lot of the meetings will then be based in Stoke, which gives more time for them to go out and to gather the student voice to help then shape what they're doing in the meetings. So I think there's quite a few positives and there's quite a few negatives, and it's just seeing how it works going forward more than anything.
Yeah. So do you think, obviously you mentioned Blackheath Lane, Shrewsbury there, and the other places that students can study. As a students' union, do you think that you are engaging with them enough, or is there plans to engage those people more?
I think it's always it's a very tricky one because it depends on resources as well. So with us moving, we are inevitably going to potentially get a cut in our block grant from the university, which will have an impact on how we can provide services. So part of the strategic work we've been doing is more to understand what our student makeup is. This is also work the university's been doing as well, and you'll find this happening across a lot of other institutions across the country, to be able to represent those students better. So it could be potentially that we have a lot of part-time students that need more academic skill, like library services and stuff like that, to be able to help them in the evenings, and then just making sure we adapt to it. But one of the things we always do make sure is that we are representing all the students and not just a segment.
Brilliant. Like in Jamie Lee's manifesto, there was a lot of mention of the student experience and the university experience as a whole. So what is that to you? Because it's different for different people, and obviously you want to try and encompass in that everyone at the university, but not everyone is going to have the same view of the student experience. So what is that for you?
So coming off the back of, because I've went away with the Board of Governors to work on the university strategy. And coming off the back of it, there was lots of talk about this real-life work experience. But what sometimes isn't understood is that only 25% of our students are 19 to 22-year-olds. And that means it's not just about a real life, it's about a new start. It's about changing the way you are, developing as a person. And I think the student experience is more about it's about how much you put into it. So you could change depending on how much you actually want to put into it, and help redefine yourself and develop as a person and develop those employability skills. So I think that's the student experience to me. It's just about making sure you use all the opportunities available to you.
Yeah. So I believe you now have the strategic plan that you mentioned before. So I'll pass over to you with all that information.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So over the last couple of weeks, the trustees of the Students' Union, so that includes all the 4 student trustees that get elected during the leadership race, the 5 officers, and the 3 external trustees that get appointed, and then all of the leadership team, which is all the managers of the union, the senior management team. We all have these away days to talk about the next five years of our strategic plan. It's a massive piece of work at the moment. And there's going to be different goals and different things we're going to be looking into. We're still going to keep the same vision that every student will be proud to be part of staffs. Yeah, we're still keeping the same values as well, because we think those values still, still apply to the students at the moment. But we've got a few new goals as well. So this is, like I say at the moment, this is just a draft at the moment. We're still taking it through the union, then we'll be going to the students to then get their input, then the university and all the rest of the external stakeholders. But some of the goals is that we haven't put a percentage on some of these. So we want all students agreeing that they're proud to be part of staffs, up from the 82% that was scored in 2015. We want all the students to be satisfied with their students' union, up from 72% on the NSS and the SVS. What's interesting about that is that we're part of Million Plus, which is all of about 11 universities that used to be polytechnics, and we're still in first position as well for satisfaction out of them. So we're looking to always improve, though, of course, about our satisfaction levels. We're going to look at how many students are identifying a positive impact from their union. One of the big pushes from the university's plan and our plan is about employability. So we want to look more into how many opportunities we provide students. So that's how many student staff positions, volunteering, all these different things, being a student academic rep and helping develop your CV, make you more employable. And then we also want to do an indicator about how responsive you think the university and union are to issues that you are bringing. Because one of the things that you have to be as a union is very reactive, because there could be something that gets announced the next day and then we have to react to it extremely quickly. There's a massive piece of work around retention. There seems to be a lot happening all over the country at the moment, and it's about how student unions can help with retention, making sure that students stay. So I think there was a piece of work done not long ago about how it's 1 in 4 students that are part of a club, and so you're 25% less likely to drop out of university if you join a club or society. And then also making sure that we're sustainable going forward financially, because like I say, there's potentially our block grant will get cut, and at the end of the day, although we are a non-for-profit organisation, everything we do we put back into the student experience. It's just making sure that we financially stay afloat. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Tom. Now, if you're thinking about running for student officer but have any doubts, take a look at this and don't be afraid to get involved.
I can't believe it at all. Thank you so much.
I'm just not popular enough to be an officer. Look, you don't have to be popular. You don't need a big campaign team. That doesn't mean success. It's about social media, getting out and about on campus and speaking in lectures. You can do that. Okay, maybe you don't have to be popular, but you don't get paid anyway. What's the point? Look, you will get paid. You'll be a leader of a multi-million-pound charity representing over 17,000 students, so it's definitely worth it. Okay, so you do get paid, but I'm not even a political person anyway. Look, it's not about being political, not at all. It's about making changes for students here at Staffordshire University. You can do that. Okay, so you don't have to be political, but I'm a third-year student. I can't make a difference. Look, just because you're a third-year student doesn't mean you can't make a change. You're the expert here. You know what needs changing. You can do it. Okay, so I possibly could change things if I ran, but even if I didn't and I just voted, that's not going to make a difference. Look, your vote really does matter. Last year there was only 8 votes between the top 2, and this year there's only 4 places up for grabs, so it's going to get tougher. Maybe you're alright. I should get more involved. I'll have a look at the website.
Hopefully, that has expelled a lot of the myths people have surrounding being a full-time officer.
Yeah, and don't forget to have a look at the website, staffsunion.com/leadership race, or pop into any of the union offices if you have any more questions.
And that's all we have time for tonight. Thanks for watching.
Good night.
Good night.